Welcome to this week's BTO talk on digital leadership, digital transformation, AI and Gen AI infused. My name is Michael Alf, calling from Lisbon with probably some background noise, so I'll go on mute in a moment. And I'm here with one of my two partners and co-founding partners of Beyond the Obvious. Rob, over to you.
Yes, hi Michael, great to see you. So Rob Thurner here in London, also co-founder Beyond the Obvious, working with business schools and clients on their transformation journeys. And looking forward to spending some time with you all today. And the first area, as we do in most of our sessions, is to look at the tech news. So what are the big tech developments? A lot of news, I think, around the large language models and some developments there. Michael, anything else to share with us here?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's interesting. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, so I think we as Gen AI enthusiasts need to say thank you, because basically all big players came up with new models. Yeah, we talked about OpenAI 5.0 and 5.1. We talked about Anthropic and Claude with the 4 version and different iterations, actually, and different type of models. We talked about Gemini 3.0, and to add on that, there's one German model actually, which makes it to the top, which is focused on images and video, and this is called Flux from the Black Forest Labs. Yeah, so which actually where I grew up in the Black Forest, and they came up with a new model, and is really kind of amping up now, raising the bar for images and videos. So we can now create images on a quality and a realistic kind of sense never seen before. I'm using them already, when I do my presentations, webinars, workshops, and so on. Yeah, of course, we are using a lot of these kind of tools. We do have a number of agents and things like that. And one thing is really kind of the quality of these images. And one thing in particular stands out. And this is really shifted since kind of the new models came out. This is the quality of text in images. If you remember, this was a huge problem, and Flux were the first ones actually addressing that and solving this problem to a certain extent. Now we're creating incredible text on images, which is a challenge in itself, and this seems to be solved now. This clearly indicates how much ingenuity kind of the engineers bring to these models still. Yeah, it's not about more power, by the way, because they actually the power and the cost goes further down. I saw an incredible statistic on that, but it's actually kind of what the engineers do with this model. So across the board, all models are really kind of amping up the next level. They are creating now quality output both on text and on images.
Thanks. That's really interesting, and it makes you wonder: are we in a race here where businesses will end up selecting one model as their go-to that has functionality across all of these areas? You know, we seem to be with text plateauing, getting to a point where they're all able to deliver the same kind of responses in the same time, but adding this additional functionality, it was feel like as a user, it's easier to have one model that does everything instead of having to log into different accounts and do these things separately. Do you reckon we'll wind up in a position, Michael, where there'll be the most multifunctional model takes the market share here, and the other ones that don't have that capability will be left behind? Potentially, what does that mean for Anthropic, for example? It doesn't have the functionality we've seen, or Copilot, which is very capable in some areas, but lacks that functionality in other areas.
It's a very good question and very relevant from a lot of these conversations. I think the question somehow misses one important point from a user perspective. So you have the end users, and for them, of course, it makes sense to have basically one go-to model. For most, still, that is ChatGPT. Yeah, clearly. So they have a market share of, I think, 70% in the end users, or even more. Yeah, so this is one. Then we have the Copilot, which under the hood, as most of you know, is also OpenAI. usually one model behind. So they're not using the latest models usually in Copilot, which of course, and just spoke to clients this week actually, they do have Copilot in the organization and still use ChatGPT because it's better and more usable. So it's like it's interesting observation. Again, this kind of is shifting over time, but that's only part of the equation. So for you as a personal user, it does make sense that you have your favorite one. Usually it comes also with structures of your projects, the typical kind of sometimes the GPTs and ChatGPT, and things like that. So kind of you enrich your environment, if you like, for your personal use. That's one part. Then you have two other elements. The second one being is AI workflows. These are usually created by, let's say, the AI team, sometimes by the end user, sometimes by the AI team, somewhere in between. There, it does make sense to change models, and actually pick the models which are most relevant and more cost optimized, because you have repetitive kind of tasks. And then there's a third area, which is actually bespoke AI solutions. And we are talking about complex AI solutions, which do really complex things, either high volumes, high difficulty, and all these kind of things. For that, of course, you have your AI teams and your external supporters. And of course, there, it's obvious that you optimize for models. So you have in some solutions, you have even multiple models for various reasons, and so on. So I would kind of put this into these three buckets. And for the end user, I'm completely with Europe. It makes sense to become really good at one, be it Copilot, be it ChatGPT, or be it Claude on the other side.
So this is interesting. It gets us into the area of, well, where's the big gap here? And I've read a lot recently around businesses over-investing in tech or not seeing the ROI in their tech, and realizing that to unlock the potential of the tech, they need to make sure their teams are fully up to speed and have the right skills. Now, from what you were just saying, it's clear that the AI teams and the engineers don't need too much support with the understanding the tech. They're the inventors, but it's other people around the business. And how can their skills be developed to take full advantage of the tech, but also to kind of level up so the tech teams are meeting the business needs and well aligned there. I was on an FT webinar this week around the banking sector. What was fascinating, there was a lady from JP Morgan saying they've already seen a $2 billion investment in AI pay off with the efficiencies they're seeing in key account managers, in call center volumes, in coding. So they're seeing those rewards already. But for other organizations that don't have those sorts of budgets, thinking about small, medium-sized enterprises, where do you see them getting the best bang for their buck if they're not yet seeing the ROI on the investment that's going into the tech side?
Yeah, great questions. Look, I think when we look at the different reports, one thing is clear. Most companies are still at pilot stage. There's no scaling up. Only a very few organizations have done that. Some investing significant money, some initial money, and part of that is a learning journey. And the learning journey indicates these gaps. This is the reason why our awareness workshops work so well. So when we work with the CEO and the leadership team, then suddenly there's a wake up saying, this is now possible. These are the boundaries, these are some challenges, and so on. So it's a complete different level of awareness. That is the first step. And then, of course, you need to kind of keep that up, so that you upskill your teams across the board on an ongoing basis, again, because we see quite a few changes. And I think that's the main one. We all need to learn what it actually means. And this includes the experts. This includes us as well. It's a journey for all of us. So all the work we are doing is, of course, also based from kind of the collaboration with our clients to see what works and what doesn't work. And it's a learning process. And it is something completely new. We never had a computer, an AI that actually understands and creates text, and all the other things, but mainly text. So this is new, even after 3 years. I mean, the internet was new after 10 years. So we can't have too high expectations. It takes a while to actually get this traction. Therefore, I think it's really important for CEOs and their teams to make sure there is an upskilling and a qualitative upskilling, so that everyone can participate, and you then start reaping kind of the fruits of that upskilling.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm seeing the clients I'm talking to, there seems to be, if anything, a divergence in the level of knowledge and skills. Those who are working in data, those who are working in IT, certain other customer-facing roles where there's been more experimentation, they've seen more benefits in improving processes, but others who seem to be a long way behind. And for me, Michael, one of the big areas is around decision making, understanding how quickly decisions that involve AI support can radically improve performance. You're thinking about turnaround time for tickets in a call center, for example, reducing by 80%, or you're looking at the quality of responses, replacing human assessment with AI, or then the sheer scale. How many decisions can you be making and rolling out your solutions to different parts of the business? So given the potential learning there, how would you suggest we get clients started if we're still at a nascent stage? What are the building blocks to take the awareness into activation and implementing AI at scale?
Yeah, so I think one of the things after these awareness workshops is basically, let's call it roadmap workshops. And so this is really identifying use cases with the knowledge you acquired before. And you need this knowledge in the right format. You need to understand what works and what doesn't work. And this is what our Maverick simulation does very, very well. Throughout these 13 scenarios, that just eye-opening in terms of what is possible. And from there, you can create a lot more use cases and ideas. This overall feeds then an energy of this transformation. And then, of course, then you need to kind of filter and scale it down and decide what you do. And what are your big bets? That's one thing. In terms of, but that's talking about this third category of the complex solutions. But also, what are your day-to-day bets? And these are many more, by the way. These AI workflow agents, they are super, super powerful. In all kind of areas. And this is kind of what is required then to gain this momentum, so that people actually start working with this, but in the right way. So it's not working that you say, well, here you have the co-pilot, now use it. It's like, that's not how it works. So then people give up. I saw one study which indicated actually a decline in the usage across the population, so the employee population. Because of course, kind of you give up at some stage. So so therefore you have to renew and encourage the proper use that includes actually proper prompting, which is still an art form, to be successful there. So that's one part. One comment maybe on the IT side. It feels a little bit like it's given that kind of the IT side is not the problem. Even that's not true. There are not many really good LLM or AI engineers out there, because it's a new work and a new way of thinking as well. So it's even that area is developing, and it's changing so fast in terms of what is relevant, because we are now gathering the experience from our initial projects that suddenly other topics become more relevant. So kind of and so this is a huge challenge for the IT folks as well. So they have all these projects going on, plus they have to stay up to date as well, on a more technical level, more new architectures, new kind of approaches, new flows, new concepts in terms of how to do something, because suddenly you recognize the initial RAG approach, retrieval augmented generation, does not work anymore, or it's kind of has its limitations. So suddenly you have to come up with new ideas. Yeah, so it's really evolving. Everything is evolving just at an incredible speed, and that is probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So to summarize, then we can help with the awareness building to ensure that across the business we understand the capabilities. This itself, of course, is a challenge because things are moving so quickly. But if we can build awareness first, then move into the road mapping and building out roadmaps and particular use cases which are relevant, and then understand how we can be developing agents and helping replace a lot of this repetitive work, which allows better collaboration. And when we look at the role of the leadership here, this is something we can look at in the next session, Michael, leadership and the leadership challenge in leading both the teams themselves and making sure we've got good representation across the business in the same learning experiences, and then turn that into agentic skills development and making sure we know how to manage the agents who will be replacing a number of the roles and a number of the tasks that were previously done by our teams. So, Michael, really interesting. The speed of change doesn't seem to be slowing down in any way. We've got more complexity here. It's our job to try and help you here. So please get in contact. We are working on audits and assessments to help you understand where you sit at the moment and how you benchmark with others. The awareness building workshops we've talked about, and the simulation, which is a great way to open eyes and understand how the different functions fit together. So with that, thanks very much for your time today. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. And Michael, any last words from you?
Look, I think you made a wonderful segue. We'll talk a little bit more about leadership and some aspects of it. I think that's a nice cliffhanger for the next session. Until then, have a great time.
Thank you. See you next time.